Welcome to the Be Better broadcast, where we come at you every Monday and Thursday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to bring you tips and strategies and techniques and personal stories and experiences to help you to live an extraordinary life and achieve self-mastery, whether that be with mindset in your personal life or maybe it's in business. Whether you're a business owner, you're a leader inside of a company, also known as an intrapreneur, or you are an entrepreneur who wants to take back control of your life. And if that is you, then you are in for a treat today, because we're going to be talking about how to free yourself from the entrepreneurial grind. And we're going to be speaking with Dr. Sabrina Starling. And for those who don't know Dr. Sabrina, she's known as the business psychologist and is an international best-selling author of the How to Hire the Best series and the 4-Week Vacation. She is the founder of Tap the Potential and the co-host of the Profit by Design podcast. At Tap the Potential, Sabrina works to free business owners from the constant demands of a growing business. We believe that work supports life, not the other way around, and I'd have to agree. Dr. Sabrina and her team at Tap the Potential are on a mission to change the story of entrepreneurship from one of long hours and grinding it out to one of sustainably profitable businesses that support and enhance your life. Dr. Sabrina has become the world's leading expert in attracting top talent in small businesses, no matter what hiring challenges those businesses are facing, which are rampant at this day and age, which we'll be talking about. And Dr. Sabrina knows what it takes to find, keep, and motivate exceptional performance out of your biggest investment of all, your team members. Dr. Sabrina, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Brandon, thank you so much. I cannot wait to share some strategy with your audience just about let's help entrepreneurs take their life back. And I know you have a large audience. You don't just have entrepreneurs listening. And I think what we're going to get into today has relevance for any leader anywhere, both personally and professionally.
Absolutely. And I'm excited to jump right in. And this audience is full of people who work a job, who want to be entrepreneurs. We have people who currently are entrepreneurs. We've got some business owners. And a lot of the time, and this was me a couple years back, and I'm still a small entrepreneur myself, I jumped into the world of entrepreneurship and I worked more. Right. And now I'm working more and it's on my business and it's on my brand, but it really would be difficult for me, if not impossible for me, to take a 4-week vacation and come back with any momentum at all. I would absolutely lose all progress that I've made. I'd have to start over. So a lot of the questions I'm going to ask you are selfishly to help me, but in that pursuit, it's going to help everyone listening. And I want to jump right into this. Speaking of the grind, right? You have a Facebook group, Entrepreneurs Take Your Life Back group. Tell me a bit about that and your mission there.
So we started this group because, first off, the journey of entrepreneurship is very lonely. The people around us don't really understand what it feels like to be an entrepreneur. From the outside, they think you have control of your time. You can do whatever you want. And oh, you must be rich too. And that's not the case. And so a lot of times we feel like there's pressure from the outside world because no one understands us and we are grinding it out. And, you know, you speak about being new to entrepreneurship. I remember when I quit my job, this is probably 14 or 15 years ago now, and I drove off on a Friday, midday Friday, with my Toyota 4Runner full of my office equipment. And I was going home and I was like, I'm taking my life back. I had no idea what I was really doing, because I certainly was not taking my life back. My new business was about to take over my life. And at that point, I had a newborn baby and I had a brand new business. And I thought that I was creating my own business so that I could have better work-life balance and be present with my family. And I remember the moment where I was rocking my newborn baby to sleep in this dark room, and there was some moonlight coming in, and I was reading The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, and I was reading it and I was thinking, oh crap, I'm doing everything wrong. And in that moment, I just had this I have to do things differently, but I don't know how to do things differently. But I'm about to go down this journey, and this business is going to take over my life if I don't figure this out. And that really put me on a quest from that point forward to right my relationship with my business, which that's what we do in the Entrepreneurs Take Your Life Back group. We are entrepreneurs who are working on creating sustainably profitable businesses that give us more time for what matters most and more money in our bank account than ever. And after reading the E-Myth, a few years later, I had the opportunity to meet Michael Gerber in person, and I got to ask him any question I wanted to ask him. And I said, how do you grow? You have a coaching business, Michael. How have you made it scalable and grown it? I have a coaching business too, and I can't figure this out. And he looked me in the eye and he said, my dear, I own a coaching company, and I have never coached a day in my life. And I'm not going to lie, that really ticked me off, because I was like, what kind of answer is that? You didn't tell me anything. And then as I came away from that, I also realized he told me everything. What he was saying to me is that my way of thinking about my role in the business has to shift. And it wasn't just my role in the business, Brandon, that had to shift. It was my very being, my mindset, my whole way of showing up in the world had to shift. And that is why I'm so passionate about supporting entrepreneurs, because when we start out in business, the skills that make us successful, that help us bring in business, are not the skills that get us to the next level. And we're constantly, if we continue to operate our businesses from the mindset that we have when we start up, we will always be on a treadmill. And as the revenue in the business grows, the more that business is going to take over our lives. And the research is shocking to me about the statistics for depression, suicide, and divorce, and for entrepreneurs, and not just for us ourselves, but how it impacts our family, our children, and what they're observing and watching, and how we're not fully present with them. So I want entrepreneurs everywhere to know it doesn't have to be this way. There's a better way to do things.
I think that's incredible that you met Michael Gerber, because I read that book this year, actually. And it's for those who haven't read the book, it talks all about systems, right? And he talks about the woman in the bakery who owned the bakery, but she also did all the baking and she did everything, and it consumed her entire life. And he went in there and he said, there's a different way, right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. From 1,000-foot view, those shifts in your mindset that you personally made, like I want to ask you, like, what were the first things you had to change? But also, what is that mindset, that successful entrepreneur, business owner mindset that will lead to greater results and that will lead to freedom from the grind?
So it really is thinking about our time very differently, and thinking about the highest and best use of our time, and what role do we really need to play in our business so that our business can grow and we can free ourselves up. So I talk a lot about how to make our time worth $10,000 an hour. And at the end, I'm going to share a chart of $10,000 an hour activities. It's a free download that I'm going to share with your listeners. And it shows us what we're doing in our business that's worth $10 an hour, $50 an hour, $100 an hour. If we take that startup mentality throughout our business as it starts to grow, as it approaches six figures and beyond, and multiple six figures, if we're still using that startup mentality, we are going to keep ourselves doing the $10 and $50 an hour tasks, and we tell ourselves we're doing it to save money, right? Because when we start up, we're usually bootstrapping things, and so. But what got us there will not get us to the next level. And the biggest shift that I had to make was to let go of control. I mean, oh my gosh, I didn't want to let go of my bookkeeping. I didn't want to let go of sales, because who I was coaching, who else besides me could sell my own coaching better than me? I was so afraid of bringing someone in and they would just decimate the business. And so recognizing for myself that the things that I was telling myself that I do really well were lies, because none of us can do 1,000 things really well. There's nobody on earth who is going to be a great bookkeeper, a great sales copywriter, a great spokesperson, a great salesperson, a great techie person who works on the website. Like that person doesn't exist. But we entrepreneurs, we tell ourselves, oh yeah, I'm great at all of that and nobody can do it better than me. And by golly, I'm going to save some money as I do it myself. And we are setting ourselves up for burnout, number one. That's not sustainable to live that way, but to recognize that each of us has a unique set of gifts and talents. And we need to move as our business grows. We need to take everything else off our plate gradually over time. I'm not saying like right now, if you're just at six figures, go out and hire a whole team, but start looking at what are the things that drain your energy? What are the things that you procrastinate on? For me, it was my bookkeeping. I would do that. I would put it off till Friday evening. It would be the last thing I would do in the week. And it would keep me working till 7 or 8 o'clock at night on Friday evening while my family and my friends were out having fun. And so when I looked at letting go of the bookkeeping, I told myself, I'm afraid somebody's going to come in here and they're going to mess it up. They're going to mess up my books and I'm not going to know where my money's going or whatever. Well, when I brought in a real bookkeeper who'd been trained in bookkeeping, she found all kinds of mistakes that I had been making. I was like, oh, wow. So I guess I wasn't that great at bookkeeping. Who knew? And so then my next hire was to bring on a salesperson. And I had a coach at the time who said, it's time. This is going to be your next hire. This is what you need to do. And I had all these fears around, they're not going to do a good job selling. So I brought in Darren, who's with me still to this day. And I had a couple of conversations with him and I kind of just turned him loose because I didn't know back then how to train a team member. That was all new to me as well. And he called me up a couple hours later and he said, you have a new client. And I said, what? And he said, yeah, this is easy. Just conversation. Told him what you do, told him about the results you get. He's like, I'm there. Let's go. Who knew? And so that started to build my confidence that there are people who have skill sets and strengths and talents in the areas in the business and that they can do things better than me. And that would free me up to do what I love most, which is to coach, train, and teach. To be here to do this with you and to share these things with your audience, I had to let go of all kinds of things in my business. Otherwise, I would have never had time. I would have been like, I'm working 70 hours a week, Brandon. I can't make an hour to be here on a podcast with you. But now I can because I have let go.
And you said you've been in this business now for 14 years?
I think it's close to 16 years. Okay. From the time that I started coach training, started building the business, 16 years.
Okay, so you have over a decade of experience with this.
Yes.
Now, I want to take you back to the very beginning, okay? At what point from when you began did you say to yourself, and did you make these shifts personally where you started to then give these tasks away that weren't $10,000 an hour tasks? How long into you doing this?
So I will tell you that the moment it was a meltdown that I had in my laundry room. And my daughter was probably 4 or 5 months old, and I was washing a vomit-filled onesie and bedding. And I was just boo-hooing because I was so overwhelmed. And I just had this epiphany come over me that I have only a few hours. So I run my business on 25 hours a week. And that started because I had a newborn baby at home and I wanted to be present with her. So I would send her to a babysitter for 4 or 5 hours a day. So every day I had this block of time, 4 or 5 hours to work on my business. And that was it. And I was just in the laundry room just boohooing because I thought I can't get it all done. I have to learn. I have to learn about business. I have to learn about marketing, and I don't have time to learn about marketing. But if I don't learn about marketing, I'm not going to have clients and blah, blah, blah. And this kind of question came over me of, Sabrina, if you can only get one thing done today that's going to move the business forward, what is that one thing? Mm. And that is where things really started to shift for me because I answered that for myself. I don't remember exactly what my answer was, but I went and I did that one thing and then I let everything else go. I quit worrying about it. And so every day I just started asking myself, what is the highest value activity that I can do today that will move the business forward? And that really was the foundation of me starting to think about my time in terms of worth $10,000 an hour, because our $10,000 an hour activities are the things that scale the business, bring in revenue, and help us move forward.
I think that question is super powerful. What one thing can I be doing right now that will make all of the other things either easier to complete or even unnecessary to complete? And I got that from Gary Keller from the book, The One Thing, when I was a leader
Yes.
with in the company I worked for. And it was one of the most valuable books I've ever read, because I still fail to ask myself that question every day. But when I do ask myself that question, I'm so much more productive and so much more in the space where I'm most comfortable and most effective, like you talked about. And I remember, Sabrina, when I first started my business, I was recording the videos, creating all the content. I was posting all the content. I was editing all the content. And really, things really changed for me in my business 5 months ago when I hired my video editor who does all my social media posts and editing. And I was able to go from one video a week, being very stressed out, to 3 to 5 videos every single week on YouTube, on podcasts, on social. And I'm reaching more people while having more time for myself. And I know that I can do even better. Like, I'm still the one, reaching out to you to be on the show. I'm still the one organizing all these things. And it is that sense of control that is scary to give away. But I know the benefits because I've started this myself and giving away some of these non $10,000 an hour tasks. So let me ask you this. As a new entrepreneur, is there a certain point where you recommend that most people say, okay, now it's time to start giving away these different tasks? Is it a certain revenue number? Like, what does that look like?
I think as soon as you are able to get some things off your plate. So, and what we fail to recognize when we hold on to tasks because we tell ourselves that we're saving money by doing it ourselves, is we're not paying attention to what opportunities does it create for us when we free our time up to focus on higher value activities for the business. And so as a new entrepreneur, one of the things that just helped me kickstart my business was getting out there and doing public speaking. And I know with COVID, that's been a little challenging this year, but I did a Chamber of Commerce talk on time management. 30 people showed up. Over the course of 4 or 5 years, about 10 people in that room eventually became my client in my business. And so when we don't have time to get out there and do those things because we're so busy invoicing and learning marketing and this and that, we are keeping ourselves from growing the business. And so I think as soon as you get your first client, set a portion of the money aside to hire some administrative support. Administrative support is the easiest thing to hire. Somebody who will, run your calendar and book appointments for you, just the back and forth on scheduling appointments, even with automated calendar systems now, it's just time that we don't need to spend. It's not a valuable use of our time. And so this gets into pricing our services appropriately, because a lot of us, when we start out, we don't charge appropriately because we just want the business, right? And so we don't charge enough to be able to afford administrative support for our business. Well, you have to do that. And so one of the things and that's a mindset that if you carry that forward in the business and you scale that mindset, you will never be able to hire team members. You will never be able to afford to hire the A players. You will constantly be in the cycle of, I can't pay the wages and provide the perks and benefits that Amazon and McDonald's are providing. And so that mentality starts way back at the very beginning of our business when we decide, I really want this project really bad. So I'm going to charge just a little bit less so I can get that project or get that client. It's very destructive for us.
Yes, very true. And you hear everywhere that sales is the lifeblood of your business. If you're not bringing in money, how are you going to reach more people, number one, right? But then how are you going to continue to build this business? And I think a lot of new entrepreneurs, at least from what I've seen, or wantrepreneurs, right? People who want to do it, I feel like, and this was me too, they struggle with an offer and they struggle with, I want to charge more, but people aren't interested, and they're not interested because the value isn't there, right? The result isn't there. So when you were first starting out, were you talking mainly about time management and work-life balance? Is that what you focused on mainly?
Yes. So I started out as a life coach. So I transitioned from being working in mental health as a PhD licensed psychologist, and I got totally burnt out in that arena. And so I was looking for, how do I repurpose my skill set? And I went through life coach training, and then I just hung out my shingle essentially and started talking about time management and work-life balance. And that's where I started attracting a lot of small business owners, because we have problems with time management and work-life balance. And what I didn't realize, I was thinking they just need to understand how to live life and enjoy life. I didn't realize it was more of an employee problem. Like, they couldn't hire good team members. They didn't know how to hire good team members. And they were working from this mentality of, I'm a small business in a small town. And we were in Wyoming at the time. And so I'm a small business in a small town in a rural area. I just have to make do with the team members that I have. And so they had businesses filled with warm bodies, and it made it very hard for those business owners to leave the business, to even go away for a day and unplug, to take some vacation. And so that's where I got very interested in, how do you hire as a small business owner? I started researching that. There were no books out there for small businesses on hiring, none. And I thought, this is crazy. Every small business owner that you talk to will tell you it's hard to hire. I don't know what I'm doing, but nobody's tackled this topic. And so I woke up one morning with this question running through my head of, what if it's not true? What if it's not true that because we are small business owners in a small town in a rural area that we can't get good team members? And that question just stuck in my head, and it made me so stinking curious. Like, I wanted to go out and I wanted to find small business owners who had great team members and interview them to find out what they were doing. And so that's what I did. And I tell you, Brendan, every small business owner that I talked to said the same thing to me. Dr. Sabrina, I have one or two great team members. I'm so appreciative that I have them on my team. I hope I never lose them, because I don't know how to replace them. I don't know what I did to attract them. If you find out, please come back and tell me, because I'm just shooting in the dark when I'm hiring. I don't know what I'm doing. And so I got them to start. I said, just tell me the story of how these great team members came to be on your team. And so that got them to open up a little bit to me. And then one after another, as I heard these stories, I realized there are patterns to what these business owners have done to get these great team members. They just aren't aware of what they're doing. And that's what I compiled those patterns into a system in the How to Hire the Best series. And I want every entrepreneur out there to know you can hire A players, and you have to think differently about hiring. But back to what you and I are talking about, Brendan, if we don't embrace that we can let go of things, and that it's more valuable for us to hire than for us to hang on and save some money and do it ourselves in our business, we will never get to that point where we can grow a great team.
Yes, absolutely. And I do want to talk about, okay, so we know that there are things in the business that we can give away. We don't want to lose that control, but we're willing to do it because we see the benefits it's done for so many other people. So where do you then begin once you've decided, okay, I'm going to hire, I want an A player, right? But in today's climate, it's so much different now than it ever has been, especially with all the government assistance and everything else.
Yeah.
So what has changed, and how do we need to adjust in order to find these A players? Where do we look?
So I will tell you that most of us are looking in all the wrong places. And what's interesting to me is, over the last few months, I've started asking the same question that I asked, 5, 7, 10 years ago, to figure out how small business owners were hiring A players. So I've started looking for business owners who are having no trouble hiring. A lot of them are our past clients that have the potentials. They have not been hard for me to find, because they're using the Hire the Best system. And I'm just asking them, are you having any trouble hiring? And I'm hearing, no, I'm not. And then I'm saying, well, what are you doing? So just for an example, most of us, when we get ready to hire, we do the traditional hiring practices that we believe are the way to hire. And that is, we decide we need to write a job ad, we need to post it on Indeed, put some comments out on social media, some posts on social media, and just kind of wait. And we do the spray and pray approach. Like, we're just going to put this job ad everywhere. We're going to tell everybody that we're looking to hire. And then we get a few applicants, but they're not so great. And then we interview and we realize those people that we interviewed, they're not so great, but we need to hire somebody. So we make a choice from the best of the worst. And then we bring them in and we're like, oh my gosh, they're awful. And that just creates this cycle for business owners of, I hate hiring. I'm going to put it off. I don't want to deal with this. And so what we're seeing when I'm talking to business owners who are succeeding in hiring, I had a conversation just last week with one of my clients who said he has hired 9 team members in the last 6 months.
Wow.
None of them came from people who were unemployed. They were all employed elsewhere. So when I say we are looking in the wrong places for the most part, when we're saying that, no one wants to work because of all the government assistance out there and on, that's the wrong pool of people. A players are employed, and to understand how to hire A players, you have to understand the A player mentality. You have a lot of A players listening to this podcast, Brandon, so they will get it. We move from one opportunity to the next. I have only been unemployed one time in my life. And that was when I was 16 years old, looking for my first job and no one wanted to hire me. Go figure. But since then, I have moved. I've had people come to me and say, hey, for my first job, I had a friend's mother come to me and say, hey, in the human resource department over here at the state school, they have an opening for a student intern. It's a really cushy job. You won't have to stand on your feet all day like you're doing right now at that restaurant. Would you like to see about applying? And I was like, yes, I'm all over that. That's how we A players navigate life. We move from one opportunity to the next. So we need to be, when we're hiring in our businesses, we need to understand that we need to be attracting A players to want to come to work with us. And we need to figure out what makes our business attractive to the A players we want on our team. And then continually, just like we continually market our businesses, we need to always be recruiting. And that means putting messages out on social media about what it's like to work for us. If you have great team members on your team, asking them why they like working for you is one of the biggest clues for what you should be putting out there on a regular basis in your social media to attract more A players like them. So A players hang together. And once we have a tap into a pool of people that want to work in our business, it's very easy to get that stream of A players who want to come to work for us. But it takes a little bit of legwork to figure out, well, if I have a couple of great team members, why do they like working with me? And where did they come from? And how can I take what I learned from them to make my business more attractive and become what I call an employer of choice for the A players that we want to have on our team?
That's amazing. And I've never asked my video editor, Arrow, I've never asked him, what do you like about working here? It's been 5 months now. I assume he's liking it, right? He's doing a great job. He's harder worker than most people I've ever met. So like you said, I lucked out when I found Arrow. And Arrow, if you're listening, I appreciate you, brother. But let me ask you this. Since you had that laundry room moment where you knew that you had to employ some systems and some A players and get some of these tasks off your plate and relinquish some of this control so you could really live your life and escape the grind, how long did it then take you from that moment to finally being able to take that 4-week vacation?
That's a really good question. So I wanted to take the 4-week vacation. I wanted to write the book back in 2013. And the reason I wanted to write the book was because I knew if I could write that book that I had figured out what a business owner needs to do to set their business up to run without them. And I didn't have the clue, but I wanted to learn that. And that's why I wanted to write the book. Well, a very good friend of mine and colleague, I was on retreat with him, Mike McCallowitz. Some of your audience may know him. He's written Profit First Pumpkin Plan. He said to me, okay, if you want to write that book, have you taken a 4-week vacation? And I said, no. And he said, to have credibility as the author of the 4-week vacation, you're going to have to take a 4-week vacation. I was like, oh, yeah, he's right. Well, I believe that life has a way of bringing us exactly what we need, because at that time, I didn't know it, but I was already pregnant with my second daughter. And I learned that I was pregnant a couple months later. And then I started thinking about, oh gosh, I want to take maternity leave. And I don't want it to be the way it was when I started my business with my other daughter who was a newborn. And I thought, I was doing yoga one morning in my yoga mat, and I was doing sun pose. And this question just kind of came over me of like, if you have an A player on your team and they're your best team member, what would you want to do for that person if they came to you and said they were pregnant? And my answer was, well, I would want to give them a really long paid maternity leave. And that's what I recognized I actually wanted for myself, is a really long paid maternity leave, because I knew this was going to be my last child. And I just wanted to enjoy that, infancy and brand new baby experience. And so at that point, I probably only had 4.5 months at the most to get my business ready for a 9-week. I went for 6 weeks, but it ended up being a 9-week paid maternity leave. So I was where you are, and probably a lot of your listeners are. I was doing everything in my business. I had one other team member. She was my virtual assistant who handled my scheduling. That was it. And I had to figure out, how do I get my business to run without me? And I got to work on that, because I had a very tight time frame to make it happen. And that is what it takes. It really takes a commitment and a deadline. Like, I am doing this, and here's why I'm doing it. I had a very strong why for doing it, and I made it happen. And the business grew. We brought in clients while I was out, and revenue came in while I was out. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. This can be done. And that put me on the trajectory after that to taking regular time away from my business and getting the business to run more and more without me. And, one of the things that I didn't appreciate when I started out on the journey around the 4-week vacation is I thought, once we take a 4-week vacation, that's the ultimate. We can be away from our business forever from that point forward. It's going to be wonderful. It doesn't work like that, because our businesses, if they're growing, they're going through different growth stages, and we are bringing in new team members and new leadership. So it's important for us to continually take these 4-week vacations and continually test the business and its ability to run without us.
Great. That's an amazing story. You did it so quickly, within 4 to 6 months, but like you said, you had a reason for doing it. And you can't just be, lackadaisical with this. You have to, like you heard, if you want to take the island, burn the boats, right?
Exactly.
No looking back. You wanted to spend that time with your daughter?
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. How old is she now?
She is 7.
Awesome. Very amazing. And you were able to make it happen because you committed to that.
Because I committed, and I had a powerful why. And so taking this, one day approach, I'll get my business to where it can run without me, is not going to work. There has to be a powerful why. And a lot of entrepreneurs kind of hear about the 4-week vacation, and I think, oh, that sounds wonderful, but I could never do that. And I want to just say, it's not a question of if you can do it or not. It's a matter of when you're going to need to do it. I've had entrepreneurs who've taken our 4-week vacation pledge, and they're doing it for fun, because they just want to have some fun time to enjoy with their family. And then they get sick, or an accident happens, or they need surgery, or a parent passes away. And all of a sudden, now you need your business to support you while you're away and handling things in your personal life. And so get ready for a 4-week vacation before it becomes a have to.
Well said. I want to end this with a few things, and I'm always curious when I talk to entrepreneurs who are doing this full time and building a business. Let's talk about the new entrepreneur, right? Many of them have full-time jobs that they're working, and they want to make the transition to full-time, working on themselves and their business and growing it. What did you do when you worked full-time? What I know, obviously you went to school for a very long time, right? So what was your last full-time job, and what did the transition look like to full-time entrepreneur for you?
So my last full-time job was working in a community mental health center, and I was working full-time. I negotiated to work a 4-day work week. So I did 4 10-hour days so that I could have Mondays off. And Mondays were my day to work on the business and grow the business. And I also had a non-compete. So I was not, and I was in a very rural area. So if I did anything to lose my job and I didn't have my business where it would take care of my household bills, I was really in jeopardy. And so anything that reeked of providing counseling services to anyone locally would have gotten me fired on the spot. And so when I went to my boss and I said, I'm going to open a life coaching business and I'm doing this on Mondays and I want to be fully transparent, because I was kind of naive. I was like, I want to be fully transparent and let you know what I'm up to, so there's no surprises here. And he said to me, you can't do that. I said, well, I'm not asking for your permission. I'm telling you what I'm doing.
Wow.
And he was like, oh, okay, just, remember that non-compete. And so I had to find clients that were not in the state of Wyoming. And that's what I did, is I went out and I found clients. My first clients were in Germany, Canada, elsewhere. So there was nobody could accuse me of competing and working in the same market area, even though I was offering a totally different service. So that was really good because it forced me to learn marketing and to learn how to connect with people. And this was before we had Zoom. This was, but I don't think we had social media even back then. I remember when Twitter was a new thing, and that was several years into my business. So I really had to figure out, how am I going to find clients if I can't work on this in a local market?
So for those who were in that same exact situation, now they have social media, now they have Zoom, and they've got all these different resources. What is the one thing that you'd recommend to a new entrepreneur if you had to give them one piece of advice from your own experience when making that transition? What advice would you give them?
I would say be really clear on carving out the time that you dedicate to the business, and don't feel bad when you're not working on the business because you're doing other things in your life. I knew my break-even point. I knew the amount of money that I needed to bring into my business in order for me to quit my job. And that was very motivating to get to that point. And I worked really hard every Monday to get there as fast as I could. And so along with that, if you are making that transition from, you just have a small amount of time to work to build your business, and now you're quitting your job and you're going to go full steam, I would say to you, remember that small amount of time that you use to make everything happen. Run your business around that model, that you only have a small amount of time. Otherwise, it will just start taking over your life. And so it's actually a gift, I believe, to have these constrictions on our time as we're making that transition from full-time to building my own business.
It gives me chills hearing that, because it's literally like the situation I'm in. And I know it's the situation of a lot of people listening right now. How long did it take you to finally make that transition after you started working on your business to you saying it's time to fully go all in on this? What was that time frame for you?
It was about 9 months. It was very fast. And there was also a point where during that time, after I quit my job, I continued to do psychological evaluations because those paid my mortgage. I had a contract, it was steady work, but I didn't enjoy that work and it was distracting me from building the business. So I then started working on what amount of revenue do I need to bring in for 3 months straight in my business to feel confident in stopping the psychological evaluations. And that was the point when I was able to do that. I fully transitioned. I let go of my license as a psychologist, and I just focused on coaching and getting the training that I needed to succeed in that arena. So I think it's about knowing your numbers and knowing what is it going to take to feel confident and working. I wanted to let go of what I was doing as a psychologist because it was draining me. And so working towards that goal gave me a very clear focus.
Thanks for going into that. That's amazing. And congratulations on everything that you've built in the last 16 years of you doing this. Like, just so many amazing talking points today. This Entrepreneurs Take Your Life Back group, who is that for and where can they join?
This is for entrepreneurs who are recognizing that your business is taking more of your life than you want it to. And so this group is on Facebook, and I would encourage you to come join us. The best way to get an invitation is to download our chart of $10,000 an hour activities at tapthepotential.com/10K. tapthepotential.com group.com/10K. So you'll get the chart of $10,000 an hour activities, and you'll get the invitation to join us over in the Entrepreneurs Take Your Life Back group. I do a lot of training in that group, a lot of free training and giveaways just to I want entrepreneurs everywhere to know it can be different, and I want you to have the skills to start making that difference for yourself, so you get that taste of what it really feels like when your business starts supporting you versus you supporting that business.
Dr. Sabrina, I'm joining the group, and everyone
Awesome.
listening, I'd advise you to click the link in the description wherever you're watching or listening to this and join the group as well. And I'm going to link you to the $10,000 an hour activities download so that you can get a quick shortcut to get into the group there. I'm super excited about everything you're working on. I'm excited to hear the feedback from this episode, and I hope everyone listening took a lot away from this, because I know I did. Dr. Sabrina, thank you so much for your time and for being here.
Thank you, Brendan. And I want to give one more shout out. I want to just share with your audience the value that Brendan is providing here with the Be Better podcast, and really trying to get out there and elevate mindset and help every one of you tap your potential. If you're finding value in this, the best thing that you can do for Brendan is to subscribe to the show and leave an honest review, because the reviews help other people like you find this podcast. It elevates it in the search for others. So if you found value, do that for Brendan, please.
Incredible. Yeah, you actually took away the final segment that I normally say. So you said it better than me. So I think that's a beautiful place to end. Everyone listening, thank you so much for watching. And until we talk again next time, continue to be better.